Okay, so if you are a frequent user of Web 2.0 applications, then you know that in order to access any of those, you're going to use a web browser like Internet Explorer or Safari or Firefox. But how nifty would it be if you use a lot of them frequently to have them readily accessible on your computer so that you can open them just like you would a normal application? Well, let's have a look at how you can do that. Let's start off with OS X here. Now, if you notice my dock, you'll notice that I have icons on the Documents side of the dock, and not a whole lot on the Applications side. Now, a lot of us, over the years, since OS X has come out, have been in the habit of using the dock, and a lot of times it's easy to get a half dozen program icons down there. And what you end up with is this really long group of program shortcuts, at the bottom of your screen or the side of your screen, wherever you like to keep the dock. So one thing you can do in the latest version of OS X Leopard is to create program groups using the document side of the dock. And as you see me clicking through here, I've got my Adobe group, my iLife group, and I created all these. These are just folders. This is kind of a miscellaneous applications folder. And here I've got my Web 2.0 folder. And when I open this, there isn't a whole lot to distinguish it from the other program groups, but there's a couple of differences here. Let's go to the Applications folder. So all of these program groups on the Documents side of my dock are just folders. Here's the Web 2.0 folder. If I do a Get Info, you can see it's just a folder. And what you can do is you can make graphics, or you can do a screen snapshot and cut out a graphic, like from a website, and you can copy and paste it into this little area right here so that the folder icon will assume that of the graphic as opposed to the default folder icon. And in order to do this in OS X, what you're going to do is open that graphic or create it in Photoshop and save it as a PSD file. And you're going to be saving it pretty small because these are pretty small graphics. Now I say PSD because that's what works in OS X. Now if you have another application, of course, that makes that kind of file, then that'll work fine too. To inspect the others, here's my VR program group, and these are just program aliases. As you can see, what I did is, in the case of my VR group here, I've got a couple of program aliases in there, program shortcuts. Let me find one of them. Of course, what I can do is do a control click and make alias. It just makes a shortcut, and I can actually rename that way so that it looks almost identical to the actual icon for the program. And then I can move this to any location I want, and it's still going to link back to that program. And what I've done is I just put it in my VR folder. Now I've already got this in here, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the trash. But that is the process. It's the process for all of the program groups that I have here. Same way with the Adobe. If I look at that, there's all my Adobe apps. Again, just program aliases. And it saves a lot of room on your dock. For the Web 2.0 program group, something that is a little special about that is all these icons are just web URLs. What I did was went to the website, and as soon as it loaded, I just dragged the address from the address window, dropped it on the desktop of my computer. And when you do that, a hyperlink document is automatically created. And once I made that, I went to each of these websites and got the graphic, the icon graphic for the site, and then formatted it with Photoshop, as I mentioned earlier, as a PSD file. And I then just set it as the folder icon. Once you have your folders into the dock, if you control click, you can set some viewing preferences. And to get your dock to look like this, you want to view content as a grid, and you want to display it as a folder. Now you could view, say, as a fan, but you can only fit so many fanned objects on the screen, so that's why I kind of opted for the grid, so I can see more of what's in the folder. And so of course if I want to open any of these services, if I want to go to Flickr, I can choose that, and automatically a web browser will launch and open up that application just as if it existed on your hard drive. So that puts you a couple of steps closer to opening up the Web 2.0 services that you normally use. And it's a lot more efficient, I think, than having a multitude of bookmarks in your browser. And of course this is a good way to make Web 2.0 apps available in a lab situation as well. That way you have them at the ready for your clients or for classes that you might be teaching. Okay, let's say a few words about how to do this process in Microsoft Windows. The process here generally is to integrate your Web 2.0 program group into your Start menu. Now the process for creating this folder in Windows is largely the same as it is in OS X. That is, you're going to have a folder with hyperlinked documents in it. You can do a get properties on each hyperlinked document and change the document's icon to that of the graphic that you created or snapped off of a website. And in Windows, in addition to using the Photoshop file format, depending on what version of Windows you're running, you may need to save that graphic you make as a bitmap image and then set it as the document's default icon. You'll then want to place the folder somewhere you can keep track of it, like in the Docs folder or wherever is most convenient for you. Drag to move that into the Start menu and then to the Programs area. This creates a shortcut to your Web 2.0 folder, and once that's in there you can actually right-click it and rename it to Web 2.0 or whatever label you want it to have. And once there, when you access it, just like in OS X, you can see the graphics associated with each hyperlink to the Web 2.0 service. And of course you can change this information about the hyperlinks that appears in the Start menu too, just by editing that hyperlink document.